colleague, Leslie Hettinger. And Leslie is our director of the primary school, and we're excited to share with you some thoughts about why it's important to start your child young in a preschool through 8th grade environment like Langley. We're going to do two things today. We're going to talk about Langley in general, but also really try to give you a larger context about what the research literature is saying about how to choose the right learning environment for your child and some of the real tangible and concrete benefits of starting when your children are young. All right, sorry. So again, just a quick review. We're going to talk about what the research is telling us about childhood education, how our teaching philosophy at Langley balances an emphasis on play with a strong curriculum, and how we celebrate childhood in Langley's primary school. For us, just to be clear, our primary school is represented by our preschool classroom, which has students who are 3 years of age, our junior kindergarten program, which has students who are roughly 4 years of age, and then our kindergarten program, where we have our 5-year-olds. Students leave our primary school and head to our lower school, but this is a defined, contained, and special part of our program that really bears some explication. As I said, we are a preschool through 8th grade school located in McLean, Virginia. We are preschool through 8th grade by intentional design. We think there are some significant benefits that come from having a school that focuses on foundational years and ends at 8th grade. We are 50% girls and 50% boys, so we have a lovely even distribution of male and female students. And our student-to-teacher ratio is roughly 7-to-1, and that includes some of the specialists that your child would come in contact with. Even in our primary school, we have specialists that push in and do music and art instruction in the primary school in a very unique way. 30% of the families of students here at Langley represent as being diverse in some way. That's vitally important to us because we know that having a diverse and inclusive learning environment enriches the learning environment and makes it stronger. We also have options for families to extend the day. So some of our primary school students are with us for a half day, and others can stay on until 3 o'clock and even beyond to acknowledge that a lot of working parents need a fully fleshed out experience. And we do a lot of coordination between our extension programs so that it's a full and rich experience for students who start the day with us and go beyond a half-day experience. And finally, our philosophy is student, teacher, and parent-centered. We really believe that the partnership between the teachers and the parent body is one of the strongest and most enriching parts of what we offer students and their parents. So one of the things that we know is that quality matters when you're looking at preschool programs. We know, because we do the demographic research, that there are a lot of preschool programs out there. There are a lot of families that need and want to put their children in school early for very good reasons related to their cognitive and social development. But we also know that the quality of the preschool makes a big difference. And you probably know this if you've looked. You go and you can get a gut feeling sometimes about preschools where they're really full and there are a lot of students and it feels crowded and a little chaotic, versus a program where there's a really systematic and thoughtful way to structuring the children's time in ways that really reflect their developmental needs. We have been excited at Langley because more and more research is coming out that students who have really high quality preschool and early childhood experiences are actually more successful academically and socially in life. And I'm going to go into this research in a couple of more slides. But what we know is that putting your child in a stimulant-rich, well-coordinated, well-reasoned, and structurally sound curriculum really yields tremendous cognitive gains. And that is true for all students, particularly for disadvantaged students. But what we see is our students that come to us in preschool and start the Langley program early are thriving by the time they're starting lower school. They've made a seamless transition to being in school. They have a lot of confidence. Their socialization and cooperative skills are just first rate. And so, though it's hard to imagine probably putting your 3-year-old in a full-day program or even a half-day program, we see just huge growth in their capacities when they've had that experience. So defining quality. So you might be sitting there asking yourself, so okay, you're right, the landscape is full. How do I know what some of the better options are? This grid represents some research that has been done that really help families who are looking for high-quality preschool programs to look at the appropriate practices that should be present in a high-quality program. And obviously, this is a dense slide, and no one likes in a PowerPoint to be read to. So I'm just going to hit some highlights. All of the things that fall into the appropriate category are things that we do at Langley. We have, as you will hear from my colleague Leslie in a few minutes, a very child-centered approach to teaching and learning. Work is often quite individualized and tailored to the needs of the students. We pride ourselves in our ability to quote-unquote differentiate, which is the educational term for really understanding where a child is and what kinds of support and scaffolding they need. We move children at a pace that's right for their own growth. There's no rush here. We're not trying to move kids through a prescribed program at a rate that doesn't meet their needs. We do a lot to include some of the areas we know later in life that will be so important to them, such as science and social studies, working with them at centers to improve their emergent literacy skills, beginning that early reading and math that is so important that if laid well will really set them up for success. And we're also, again, not concerned if kids are developing at different rates, because we know that there is no one cookie cutter, and our small ratios, our small class size, the intimate attention you get really allow us to understand and provide parents with feedback about how their child is developing, which I think for a parent is so valuable. That's where the partnership, I think, is so essential. You see your child at home, maybe in a sample of one or two other children, and we see them in the context of the hundreds that we've taught over the years. So we can help you understand how they're growing, how they're learning, and what you can expect on the horizon. So again, as you survey programs and start to think about what's right for your family, these are some qualities that are not Langley qualities that we've made up ourselves. These are research-based attributes of excellent preschool and early childhood educations. We happen to employ them, but I think it's also useful to know what does the research say about what you should be thinking about. One of the things that is really gained a lot of attention, if you've read the New York Times recently or the Washington Post, is this idea of social competence as a predictor of future success. Teachers have known this for ages. They know that the children that are able to share and cooperate, who are able to express their ideas and stand up for themselves, to be able to identify their feelings, all of those things are correlated with the children that we see to be successful in school. But now we have 20-year-long longitudinal data to reinforce what educators have probably known for quite a long time. The Fast Track project was a groundbreaking research project that tracked longitudinally hundreds of kindergartners into adulthood. And the teachers were able to rate the social competence of these young children in kindergarten and to correlate that with their successes later in life. And so what we found, of course, in this research is not only did these children avoid some of the negative outcomes that crop up in life around negative social behaviors that are inhibiting to success, but further, that there was a greater degree of correlation between their academic success, overall happiness, and achievement later in life when they had these competencies. And this is important because when children come into a primary school like ours, a big part of what we're working with them on is developing their ability to socialize, to be engaged in what we call pro-social behaviors, the behaviors around resolving problems, stating their feelings, working collaboratively, with our youngest even sharing. Those things are important indicators of how they will orient to school in the future. And so we believe that by getting them in early and giving them a program that has a wonderful sort of academic component but balances equally a commitment to raising their social competence is what is going to set them up for success later in school and ultimately down the line in their lives. This comes together for us in our play-based philosophy, and we are a school that believes passionately in inquiry-based learning. And so for us, the intersection of, and you'll hear this term as you go out and look at the preschool landscape and the early childhood schools that are out there, we know that the benefits of free play and the opportunity to be imaginative and to be creative are really important in a child's life. And for us at Langley, that comes in the form of teaching in an inquiry-based model. Well, what is inquiry-based? Inquiry-based learning is about teaching children to learn through exploration, asking questions, tinkering, trying things out, playing, dressing up, making up stories, writing their own stories. All of this is sort of in opposition to more rote forms of learning, worksheets, things that were present, unfortunately, probably in much of my growing up. But what we now know is that it actually changes neural pathways in children's brains to have the opportunity to puzzle, to be inquisitive, to ask questions, to not be spoon-fed too much information, but to actually reason through things on their own. And all of you who have young children have watched your children do this organically as part of growing up. What our program does is scaffold very specific kinds of activities and moments in the day to that natural curiosity. And we tie it to literacy, we tie it to mathematics, we tie it to early reading, we tie it to writing, and we tie it quite explicitly to how we form a strong community of children in a classroom where they are able to interact with other children productively, to regulate their emotions, to be able to attend and pay attention. And the benefits of this are really quite extraordinary in terms of their ability later in life to be successful in school. So for us, play and the benefits of play are linked inextricably to the idea that we teach children through inquiry, and we really allow their creative and sort of the organic ways that they are curious about the world to be tied to a curriculum that sets them up for success in elementary school. So one of the things that you will likely be doing is trying to figure out what the right environment is for your child. And this is a checklist of things that we find are important qualities to be seeking in a school when you're first beginning an educational experience for your child. And again, these are things that we've worked really hard at Langley to ensure are part of the program day one. Leslie and I are out there on that first day of school when a 3-year-old is being dropped off. And it's amazing. We laughed this year at how few tears there were, really, once the children made the transition from leaving home to being in our care. And part of the reason that that happens so seamlessly is we attend to these things. We have small and large group activities. There's time to be with children individually. They have opportunities to make important decisions throughout the day. They have projects that they create with their teachers and their peers. And they are given lots of feedback on how they're doing, and you as parents are given a ton of feedback on how they're doing. So all of those things make this learning environment incredibly safe, incredibly stimulating, something that kids want to come back to. You know, the next day they're jumping out of the car. They're happy to have some time away from home where they're being challenged, but also building friendships and feeling loved and known for who they are. And so just as you consider and contemplate the choices that are before you, we thought this checklist might be really helpful. It essentially comes back to the core issues of the child, the family, the teacher, curriculum, and classroom being aligned around common values that put student learning at the center and student safety and the development of social competence at the heart of the matter. So I'm going to ask Leslie, who is, as I said, the director of our primary school, to share with you some more specific examples of the ways we try to bring this learning philosophy to life in the primary school. She is there every day working with teachers, and I think she really is an expert in helping us to understand. So all of this stuff that I've talked about with regard to pedagogy, instruction, learning outcomes, what does that look like and what does it feel like for a student in the primary school? So Leslie, I'm going to pass it to you at this point.
Thank you, Eleanor. So I think this slide here that you're looking at right now does a really good job of giving you a snapshot of what our teaching philosophy looks like in the primary school. You're looking at words like, obviously, play. We talked a lot about play. Eleanor talked about the benefits of play. But what our students are constantly doing is they are constantly creating, they're inquiring, they're engaging, they're exploring, all of those things that Eleanor also spoke to, that which are a critical part of inquiry-based learning. And so this inquiry-based learning approach to instruction is a big part of what we do. And that's why in the primary school we follow a theme-based curriculum. As early childhood educators, we know that topical units are integral for integrating learning across curricular areas. They also create an environment that supports students' search for meaning. They support language development, which we know is very important at this age. And they also allow for connections to be made with a variety of children's literature. So the slide that you're looking at right now is an example of just some, obviously we can't show you everything, so there's just a couple slides here. But in preschool, again, they're going to be exploring and playing and problem solving, and they're going to be challenged. And one of the pictures that you're looking at is this young child, a 3-year-old, experimenting with colors. And she's learning about her colors, you know, the basic colors, but she's also learning what can be an advanced concept for a 3-year-old, that if you combine 2 specific colors, they can make a new one. And this is something that you have to be very intentional about in order to get the color that you're looking for. But when provided with the right materials and the right opportunities, children can learn something like this through such a wonderful sensory experience. And of course, she thinks that she's just having a wonderful fun time with paints, but she's learning so much more than just playing with these different colors. The other slide, the other picture that you're looking at on this slide is something that you'll see a lot in our classrooms. As we talked about the importance of play, children also need to be given time for unstructured play. So we also believe that block play and construction toys like Legos, they play a huge part in the early childhood classroom. This is because children can manipulate these materials and they can participate in what is known as divergent play. Through this divergent play, this is how children are able to learn to think creatively. They can look for relationships. They're able to find new solutions. I could go on and on about the benefits of block play, especially in the area of math, but I don't have time to do that with you now. But I do want to share one study with you that I think is pretty noteworthy. And this study has stated that the complexity of a child's Lego play at the age of 4 had long-term predictive power. More complex play during the preschool years was correlated with higher mathematics achievement in high school, even after controlling for a child's IQ. So moving on to an example of junior kindergarten. This is an example. These pictures are some examples of a dinosaur unit that they do. I talked about the theme-based curriculum, and so here they're studying dinosaurs. And these students have been introduced really to the field of paleontology and archaeology. They're learning about what paleontologists do. They've read nonfiction. They've talked about tools that are used in an archaeological dig. And they're doing their very own archaeological dig in our own sandbox on our playground. And so you'll see a picture of them doing that. And then next you can see that our young archaeologists are using paintbrushes to dust off their skeletons. They're using magnifying glasses to examine those skeletons. And they have to be able to identify the type of dinosaur that they've discovered in their archaeological dig. They have to be able to ask questions to themselves such as, well, you know, I found the skeleton. What kind of skeleton is it? Is this a stegosaurus? What do I know about a stegosaurus and how it's different from a T-Rex to tell me that this is what I have discovered in my dig? The next picture next to that is actually where they are using some clay with their dinosaur skeletons. Another sensory experience, another hands-on explorative experience, where they're able to learn that fossils can not only be found as bones, but they can be found as imprints. So they have made their very own fossils here with those. Next is just an example in kindergarten. I think this one picture of this young student looking at this caterpillar on this milkweed here is a perfect example of the inquiry and the wonder that goes on in these classrooms. And you can tell that she is just looking at this caterpillar and she's asking those questions that we want children to ask, which is, you know, what do I notice about this caterpillar? What do I wonder? What do I want to learn as we talk about the life cycle of the monarch butterfly? Children, as they've studied this, these caterpillars here, they are not only having discussions about this, but they are also writing down their observations. So they're integrating their writing skills with this. So throughout this process, they're problem solving, they're communicating through oral and written skills, and they're really talking about their observations and what they're learning. And then the next picture is where at the end of this life cycle, these caterpillars have now hatched into monarch butterflies. And so they are taking this butterfly, this one they've named Polka Dot here, they are taking her out to her natural habitat. It's time to release her. And we do have some milkweed and some butterfly bushes near our playground. So these students have gone out with their teachers and they're releasing her to her natural habitat. They're talking about what they've learned in this unit. They're asking questions. They're discovering, all the things that they've learned about the life cycle of the butterfly, and they're able to say, well, where is she going to go? What is she going to eat? And just a really good way to wrap up this unit on the life cycle of the butterfly, which, as you can see, has been very hands-on, very inquiry-based, and explorative. This next picture is just to show you the importance of that math and literacy and science have in our curriculum, and that the learning is really scaffolded with technology and music and PE and Spanish and the visual and performing arts. These are all integrated throughout our curriculum. Our specials teachers communicate regularly with our homeroom teachers. As I spoke to the theme-based curriculum earlier, they really all have a good pulse on what the students are studying and how they can make it much more meaningful for the students as they study their particular units, and integrate all of the disciplines into those units. The pictures that you're looking at, the one on the left is actually some kindergartners participating in Writer's Workshop. This is something that students begin in kindergarten, and this is their beginning of their journey as authors and illustrators. We know that children, when they choose what they can write about, their level of engagement and growth can just be remarkable. They are experiencing many lessons surrounding the types of writing that writers do. So not only are they learning how to write for readers, but they're also learning how to write how-to books. They're learning how to write to teach others. They're learning about persuasive writing. They're learning about how their words can make change or instill change. And then at the end of each of these units, they celebrate with a publishing party where they can share their work. And this is, again, an opportunity for children to share their work and also experience some public speaking opportunities, learn how to speak in front of each other, and feel proud of all that they've done through their work. The next picture that you're looking at are really two students in a learning center, and their interest in math is so evident in that they asked their teacher if they could explore with these calculators. So on their own, they are figuring out how to use calculators, how numbers are derived from them. They're writing down their calculations, and it's just a great way to see this child-centered approach to this learning center, and I just think it's a great example of them exploring math in a way that's meaningful to them, and they're clearly having discussions about it. They look like two accountants who are coming up with their figures and comparing them. The next slide is just an opportunity for me to talk with you a little bit about our resource department and the differentiation that occurs. And this is a picture of our math specialist, Ms. Schunbrunn, working with some kindergarten students. And this started as a math lesson where they're sorting with buttons. It's a sorting and classifying lesson. And really, these students have, of course, started to categorize them by color and by size. But as they've gone along and through a lot of questioning of Ms. Schunbrunn and just their own discovery, they soon learned how to sort their buttons in a variety of ways that you may not really think of. First, there's sorting them by 2 holes or 4 holes, and then they're discovering that some of them are shiny and some are dull. But soon, this went even further because they soon started to recognize that, wait a minute, we can sort these by multiple categories. Some of these are white and they have 4 holes. And so this then led to the discussion of a Venn diagram, allowing for much higher level thinking. They also had to think about, well, what do we do with the ones that don't belong on the Venn diagram? And how are we going to apply titles to our Venn diagram? So there was so much discussion that this lesson ended in, and the learning was just at a much higher level than where the lesson began. And just a really good example of how the resource department plays a role in our division and throughout the school, as well as the differentiation and the scaffolding that exists.
Leslie, thank you. That is fantastic. And we hope that those more specific and concrete examples will illuminate the sort of why our program we think is so special and unique. Clearly, one of the things that is a bedrock of what we do here at Langley is that we believe that childhood is a very, very special stage that should not be rushed, that needs to be celebrated, and that we need to maximize the potential of. So our program really is committed to this notion that we have a very deep respect for childhood, and we do a lot to celebrate it. We also have teachers and specialists who come to work here because they are interested in working with very young children. And so their developmental expertise is truly in the foundational years. We're hiring people with master's degrees and specialties in early childhood education for the purpose of building a robust faculty that will speak to the pivotal years that happen in primary school. We're balancing our focus on academics and social and emotional development. At Langley, we believe that these are not sort of neat parallel tracks, but they are actually twin sides of the same coin. They are interdependent, mutually reinforcing, and that a truly great school must focus on the social and emotional development of children to ensure the academic success of these young people. We are a supportive community that shares common values, and we build our program so that it culminates at 8th grade, because we actually believe that middle school students are often lost in larger institutions, sort of sandwiched between an elementary school and a high school, and we believe that early adolescents need special attention and focus. And what we start in the primary school actually culminates in wonderfully confident, very self-possessed leaders who become our 8th graders and graduate prepared for the nation's top high schools, but also prepared to chart their own course in those institutions and to be able to discern for themselves what kind of learning environment makes sense. It's probably hard to think about that when you have a 5-year-old, but those years go quickly and you really want to position them for the greatest success. So our belief is that if you get the foundation right and you really invest in these foundational years, anything and everything is possible for a child. We hope that this overview of the Langley School's approach to early childhood education has stimulated your interest. We have an information session on December the 4th at 9 a.m. on our campus. Please join us. If not, please call our admission office and schedule a tour. We'd love to have you on campus. And we have just a few minutes, so Leslie and I are going to take a quick perusal to see if we have some questions that have come in, recognizing that you've probably been listening and hopefully just taking this all in. But we will take a few questions and see kind of what's on people's minds. And of course, if you haven't had a chance to ask a question or you log off of the PowerPoint and think, oh, I wish I'd asked this, just call our admission office. We'd be happy to follow up with you. One of the questions that has come in is, how does our primary school program compare to a Montessori style program? I'll give a broad brushstroke answer, and I think Leslie could probably flesh it out even further. You know, one of the things that Montessori is known for, and there are some really wonderful attributes of Montessori education, is that they have students in mixed grade level cohorts. So they will have students of multiple years in the same classroom. And we really have decided that by separating our 3-year-olds from our 4-year-olds from our 5-year-olds in a more defined scope and sequence, we can go deeper into the arc of development that has to do with where 3-year-olds are. I just spent a weekend with my brother and sister-in-law. They have a 3-year-old. He's a complex individual, and he's not like all of his peers. And, you know, they're looking for a school that will really have expertise on that age group, because that's what they're navigating on a daily basis at home, and they want to set him up for success. Leslie, what else would you say might be unique about our program as compared to Montessori or vice versa?
Well, what I'd say, one of the things that I think is important to think about is the social emotional piece that that we've talked is so critical to, you know, to success later. You know, because we approach things in a whole group and small group way, the students are really getting experiences with learning how to interact with each other, how to, you know, have the social experiences that they're given in those opportunities, and how to function in a classroom, not just on their own, but with their peers and as a whole group.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge emphasis at Langley, that strong desire to build cognitive and intellectual capacity while ensuring that children are developing the kinds of skills that are going to bring them success. There's one last question that relates to how we hire our teachers, and I think this is a great question, because we've been very, very fortunate at Langley to be able to hire teachers who have specific education training and expertise. So we bring teachers in who have graduate work often in early childhood education. We have resource teachers. You saw our math specialists. These are people that have done extensive work beyond their core graduate training in areas of specialty. We are literally partnering with education schools across the country. We travel nationally to hiring fairs, because we really are looking for people who want to make this commitment to the foundational years. And independent schools are very fortunate to have a lot of freedom to develop their teachers professionally, to take good care of them, to give them workloads that are manageable so that they don't burn out and they make a lifelong commitment to education and stay connected to a community where they can make a difference. And for us, that's been, a huge part of how we've built a community of teachers that share our values, are committed to our mission, and really want to develop expertise. So we want to be respectful of everyone's time. Again, I'm Eleanor Scully. I'm not sure I hit the microphone button in time. I'm the head of school. Leslie Hettinger, the head of our primary school. We are both hoping you'll come visit us at Langley, spend some time getting to know us. There's no substitute for actually coming on campus and having a visit. And we thank you. It's been wonderful having an opportunity to talk with you about issues about which I hope you realize we're passionate, and we wish you luck as you consider the right placement for your child. Thank you so much.
Thank you.